Well, I got it. Except this isn't the piece you think it is, and unless you saw my most recent video, in which case, this is the piece you think it is. This is not wow, that's super rare trans dark blue galley uniter mask. When did Lego make that? Skybird, what inside tour were you a part of? None. This is a Chinese knockoff piece, and boy do I love it. And I'm going to talk about how you can get this piece, but not only that, how you can do some other really cool things, like removing the metallic prints from pieces, the metallic paint from pieces, or even chrome plating for pieces. And I love this video, I love this idea, because it's so simple. It's so simple, in fact, I'm not going to wait till the end of the video to tell you the answer. I'm going to tell you it right now after I say, hey, if you enjoy the fact that I'm going to tell you at the beginning and screw over myself with the algorithm, subscribe. It's the least you can do. And it's, of course, free. Tells me you enjoy this content. That said, this right here, my friends, is magic in a bottle. It's not specifically this brand. It's like a whole family of things. I'm just using this brand specifically because someone had recommended it. I wanted to try something new. But my first experience with a brand like this was one called Purple Power. What is this? Well, it's essentially a detergent, a gentle detergent. I guess it's for like cleaning automotive stuff. I have no idea if that's the case, so I've never seen it advertised, but that tends to be where I find it in general stores, in automotive shops, whatever the case may be. What does it do? Well, quite frankly, it just disintegrates metal. Okay, no, that's not really the case. I don't know what metals this is effective against, but I do know very well that it can be used to dissolve chrome plating in particular. And it can also be used to take off metallic printing from Lego pieces. It can be used to take off metallic paint from, I guess, non-Lego pieces, but probably Lego pieces too. Maybe I'll have to throw something drum lacquered in here and see what it does. And that's all really cool stuff, right? But it's even better because it's relatively affordable. This was about $4, and this is like the middle ground for the family of products like this. Purple Power was like $3.50. I bought this one this time to try something different, also because people said this one was more effective, though from my experience, it's about the same. What did I do with it? Well, it took me putting a little bit of this into a plastic bottle, just cut the bottom off the bottle because I had to leave like right then and there. So I was like, well, this is quick, this is fast, and poured just the top off of the material long enough to be able to submerge this mask fully in solution. And then I left it in there for about 30 hours. I think ideally you'd leave it in there 36 to 48 hours, depending, but your time and parts may vary, right? Ultimately, this is essentially what came out. And you'll notice I didn't have to do much in the way of labor here, right? Because I pulled this mask out a little early, there were still some flakes of paint here and there, but it was minimal. I easily could have made the video and you never would have noticed them, but I went ahead and went through the process of removing those last remnants of paint, just doing so using a toothpick, a wood that's softer than the plastic, right? Or a hard or medium strength toothbrush, right? Nothing fancy, obviously no metal, no wire brush or anything like that, because that will damage the plastic, but it leaves the piece in pristine condition. Because what this does is it takes off that metallic layer, that paint, that chrome, but it doesn't harm the plastic at all. I didn't discover this by accident, by the way. This is actually something that somebody else found. In fact, many people on the internet seem to have found. And it was something I was curious about long ago, because if you are familiar with early Bionicle, you know one of the first, if not the only piece that ever came out in Bionicle that was chrome plated, at least to a wide audience, is the chrome plated HOW mask from all the way back in 2001, 2002 Bionicle. This one right here, except again, chrome plated, not red. I don't currently have the mask in front of me anymore, but I was curious about this piece because as a kid who grew up in the 90s, I had other Lego pieces that were chrome plated. It was kind of a thing that they did back in the 90s. And so I knew from experience and from maybe loving some of these pieces too much and scratching them in the process, that it wasn't just chrome as a part. It was chrome plated plastic, and the plastic was light gray. Thought to myself, the HOW doesn't come in light gray, but does it? Is there a light gray mask that's been laying underneath this HOW for all these years? And so, of course, I had to do the community the biggest possible favor, maybe my biggest contribution to the community. Ultimately, I went ahead and I sacrificed a chrome HOW. Now, I went and made sure I bought a damaged chrome HOW specifically, not only because it was much cheaper, of course, but also because that way I wasn't taking a good one out of circulation. Of course, if you own a part, good, bad, whatever, it's yours. You should be able to do whatever you want with it. Throw it in a wood chipper if you want to. I'm not going to get mad. You own it. But that said, though, it is worth noting that the ability to remove that paint from that mask, oh, yeah, it was confirmed. It was a light gray HOW beneath there that entire time. I cannot tell you. There are pictures of it on the Discord, though they're pretty old at this point. I might have to refresh that. Check out the Discord link in the description. Ultimately, though, The ability to take a mask like this, or to remove the silver printing from this drill dozer print here and make something like this. Yeah, there are other ways that people have found to remove all of the printing too, using like Brasso to actually scrape away that printing because it's an abrasive compound. That'll work. It might leave the surface a little less shiny than it originally was, and you could polish it from there, whatever. But I wanted to try something that was a little more surgical, right? Removing only specific things, and in this case, maybe the metallic colors. Some pieces I've seen from Lego, I love them, but I'm like, man, the metallic's a little too bright here. It's a little too egregious, whatever the case. Now, it's not a fast process. It's not a process where I dunk it in and immediately all of the paint just melts off. No, it takes time. Like I said, this was about 30 hours, but what's lovely is, at least from my experience, it won't damage the plastic at all. Now, I've heard some people say that this brand can damage resin after about a week of submersion in solution. I have not tested that, and maybe I'll test it in the future, but I'm not planning on using it on resin anytime soon. And resin and plastic are generally different things, so maybe I'll throw a plastic piece in there for a couple months. I know from my own experience that the purple power that I was using previously to this, which is a similar product found in the same area of the store that this is found in, automotive section once again, yeah, that worked. I threw a plastic piece in there just out of curiosity. Polypropylene as well, but also ABS, as mentioned, and neither of them had adverse effects after even months of being submerged. It was shocking. They didn't take any of the color from the material. They weren't damaged. They weren't softened in any way. They weren't more brittle in any way. They just worked, and it was phenomenal. Moving on very briefly from this for a moment, I pared this down on my Gali figure, and on that figure, I also use this armor right here. It's the Gali Master torso print, but this armor, if you're familiar with Hero Factory, you may recognize this, or you may not. That's because it's from Stringer. I think it's Breakout, but don't quote me on that. And it's baffling to me that this piece in general did not make a return for Bionicle. It comes in bright green as well, and in fact just matches Liwa's mask like exceptionally well. Would have been amazing to see it because it already comes in both these colors, which meant maybe potentially freeing up a recolor or two for other parts. That's a separate issue, of course, but throwing this back on Gali here for a moment, and of course giving her this mask so you can see what she looks like, because let's be honest, none of us are probably going to own the trans dark blue Gali Master mask, although if you do own it, let me know in the comments below, because hey, you own it, you might as well show it off, right? But that said, of course, this looks absolutely phenomenal. And again, remember, that mask, and not just that mask, all of Gali Uniter with her parts, not as good quality as Legos, but some pieces almost there. This Uniter armor, this piece of Unity here, is, I would argue, as good as Legos, but it comes in classic Bionicle silver rather than flat silver. This is Gurok's staff from 2003, not 2015. You'll just have to trust me on that, but I put a picture of it on the Discord server, link in the description for that, and it's near perfect. This piece right here, phenomenal. Some of the other pieces, not as phenomenal, but none of them are terrible. Nothing broke on me, and that's always nice. The worst parts in those sets were actually like the Technic axles, pins, and connectors, and those are probably the easiest parts from those sets to get. So ultimately, not a bad thing, all things considered. And it was $1. Like, I'm not going to complain. Plus, the fact that the mask, trans blue, and that mask isn't what it looks like. It was painted silver. Remember, you can see these live in my most recent video. Check that one out. I'll link it after this one. But the silver and the azure were painted on it. Guess what that mask's color was? Transparent, bright green. Why? Why wasn't it just another copy of the trans blue? You already made it in trans blue. Why give it to... Wild. I'm not complaining, by the way. Trans bright green version and trans dark blue version in the same set. I love it. I'll take it. Now, lastly, before I end the video, I just want to say, because I don't want to oversell this, this is not identical to Lego's version of the mask. First off, the blue is slightly different. It's not quite as dark as Lego's, although it's passable by far. If you wanted to darken this, I am going to explore ways to do that with dye. I plan on making a video talking about dyeing parts, as I have done it for almost the better part of a decade at this point, but it has its perks and its drawbacks. I actually almost made a video on it about a year ago at this point. Scrapped it because I knew I could do better. Ultimately, though, the other changes between these two masks, some for the better, some for the worse. This mask, of course, has the runes and has the Nuva symbol. This mask does not. You may or may not like that. I kind of like the Nuva symbols on at least some of these. Gali's is one of the better ones, being right in the center, and a fairly aesthetic shape overall. This one, of course, doesn't have those symbols at all. You may enjoy the fact that you get a perfectly clean mask out of it. However, the size is a little different. I talked about this in the previous video. It's a little bit narrower. It's almost as if the mask shrunk slightly, and maybe that's even the case. That's not a bad thing, though. It's near imperceptible, and it means it has a slightly tighter hold on the head as well. But one of the other things I find quite baffling about this is the eye holes. They're similar in placement and in size to Legos, except here they're ever so slightly larger. It's nearly imperceptible. But if you're familiar with this mask, this is my favorite Uniter mask. I love this mask so much, but it does have a major flaw, and it is the eye holes specifically. Now, this is being put on Galley masks with trans lime green masks, or eyes, so they'll show up a little better here, but not great. The eye holes are a bit sunken in with the transparent top. It's still kind of hard to see the eyes through there, but you can see them. With the other version of the mask in the azure and silver, though, those eyes are near impossible to see, especially on Galley Uniter, where her eyes are actually blue instead of green, because Lego, I guess. So the fact that this not only has bigger eye holes, but the eye holes are actually like moved up slightly, or at least the mask rests on the head a little higher, meaning that the eyes actually line up with the eye holes far better. Obviously, also the entire mask is transparent, which helps the light seep through it a little bit better. So generally speaking, you see the eyes through this mask better. It looks phenomenal. It's a wonderful mask, and I highly, highly encourage you to get it. Also, again, I got the Lewis set as well, which also comes with a trans bright green mask and a trans blue. Again, don't ask me why. Not complaining. They definitely could have made them the same color and saved some money, but hey, they chose not to do it. I'll benefit. Why not? So yeah, the fact that you get these, pretty phenomenal. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one. If you enjoyed the video, of course, once again, be sure to subscribe. Remember to try out, and of course, once again, respect this. Wear your gloves, wear your mask, do whatever you need to do to ensure that you are safe when working with chemicals like these. It says safer choice, but safe within what metric? We have no idea. And generally speaking, probably just safe to assume that it's highly toxic, because you can't hurt yourself if you assume that it's very toxic, right? Maybe you can. I have no idea. Anyway, I'm going to stop challenging people. All right, that's it for this one. Check out the Discord linked in the description. Patreon if you want to help support the channel and get some perks. And you can also check out the Instagram, all that stuff linked down in the description too. Just check out the description, I guess. Anyway, take care.